Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Now in the last Java tutorial, we looked at different types of arithmetic operators, but today I thought I would teach you something very interesting. So we're going to look at a lot of stuff today. I'm going to teach you relational operators in Java, logical operators in Java, and also start with different kinds of loops probably, but probably before that I'm going to teach you different kinds of conditional statements. So I would quickly go and create a new Java class. Hopefully you guys remember how to do this, and I know I haven't uploaded in a long time anyway, so okay, I'm gonna call this relational operators. I'm gonna click on finish, and this is gonna create a new Java class for me. I'm gonna close the start page. So first I would like to begin by declaring the main method, public static void main. And so let me see, how do I teach you guys? Okay, first I would like to go through different types of relational operators. Now let's start by defining what relational operators mean in a programming language. So relational operators are the basic type syntax of codes that you use when you try to relate to different types of things, when you're trying to make the computer understand the relationship between two things. So there are obviously different types of relational operators. There's equal to, which is defined by a double equal to sign, and there's greater than, which is defined by, a greater than symbol, and there's lesser than, which is defined by a lesser than symbol, and there's greater than or equal to, which is defined by greater than sign and an equal to sign, and same for lesser than or equal to. Let me just copy and paste that real quick because I'm too lazy to type. Lesser than or equal to is declared by a lesser than and a equal to sign. There's also a not equal to, which has a different interesting declaration, which is an exclamatory mark and an equal to sign. So these are the different types of relational operators in Java. Now, in order for you to use a relational operator, you're going to have to use conditional statements usually, at least in the stages where you're just starting to learn Java. So I'm going to teach you a conditional statement called if statements. So before I do that, I want to give you an example and then try to explain if statements to you. So I'm going to declare two variables here, integers to be precise, a and b. And I'm going to give a value of 5, and I'm going to give b a value of 6. Now, I would like to declare an if statement and say if a is equal to b. And pay attention to how I'm using the if statement. By how I'm using it, I mean like where I'm using the parentheses, where I'm using the curly brackets and stuff like that. So I'm going to print a is equal to b. So now if I run this, it's going to do nothing. So what happened there is that I used an if statement as a conditional statement. I told the computer if a is equal to b, print out a is equal to b. And this did not work because a was not equal to b. So, which would mean if I used a not equal to operator, I'm going to change this. And this should work because you know that a is not equal to b. So this is how you use if statements. And this is the basic syntax you use while using if conditionals. So you type if, open brackets, and also open curly brackets, and in the round brackets, which are parentheses, you define your condition. Now I'm defining a condition which would make sense in this example, and then you can ask the computer to perform any action that you want inside the if statement, and it will only be performed if the condition that you're using is true. So this is one extension of an if conditional statement. Now I'm going to teach you something else, which is called Elsif statements. And you can look at Elsif statements as an extension to if statements, because what they basically do is, here, let me Okay, I'm going to make this equal to, I'm going to type s out, a is equal to b, and now I'm going to use else if a is not equal to b. I'm going to print out a is not equal to b. So what's necessarily happening in here is that the computer is going to the if statement over here and seeing if a is in fact equal to b, and that's false in our case, so nothing's going to happen. So it's going to go else if and see if a is not equal to b, and in this case it's true, so it's going to print out a is not equal to b. So if you run it, it should say a is not equal to b. So that's how you use else if statements. Now there's another kind of example that you can, another kind of conditional that is very similar to else statement. So in an else statement, you're not defining any sort of a condition, but then you're just saying if none of these, and by these I mean any conditionals that have been defined before, is true, you ask the computer to perform an action. So I'm gonna print out none of the conditions were true. So this would mean that if I use, let's say a was okay let's say I'm going to define this as a was greater than or equal to b, and I'm going to say a was 4, for example. And you can see a is not equal to b, so this is going to be false, so nothing's going to happen. Then if it's going to go, if a is greater than or equal to b, then it sees that a is 4, which gives this conditional a false reading, and then goes to else and prints out none of the conditions were true. So by running this, it should give us none of the conditions were true. So I hope that you're starting to get a basic idea of how conditional statements work. Now, assuming that you guys have gotten a basic idea of how relational operators and conditional statements work in Java, I would like to move on to logical operators. Now, logical operators are something that is really interesting and also very important once you start a program or advanced stuff in Java. So there are basically three types of logical operators are like the logic gates in a programming language, and in Java there are three types of logical operators, which is a AND operator, and we have the OR operator, and we also have the NOT operator. And the way you define these are obviously different. For AND, you use a double AND symbol. I don't know what you call that, but I just call it AND symbol. And for OR operator, you use two, I don't know what you call this either. I'm just gonna call them two vertical lines. So in the place where you can find your vertical lines is just about your return or your enter key in your keyboard, in case you guys are wondering. And NOT operator again is just an exclamation mark. So now we wouldn't be covering a lot of NOT operator, but I would like to stress upon AND operator and OR operator today. So basically, logical operators have a unique function. So if I were to say if A is equal to B, or if A is less than B, and let me change my print here, A is equal to or less than B. Let's see what would happen if I run this now. So it gave me an output A is equal to or less than B. So what happened there is that first the computer went to the if statement, checked for the condition A equals B, and obviously it came out to be false. But then since we used an OR operator, we could see that the condition A is less than B was true because A was 4 and B was 6. So an OR operator is basically you define two or more conditions, and if either one of them is true, the function or the thing that you want the computer to execute is going to get executed. So if I now went if A was greater than B, this would still print the same thing because A is not greater than B and A is not equal to B, but then A is less than B. So this is how you use an OR operator. Now let's see how AND operators work. So we had the basic one condition for an if statement and none of the conditions were true. But now if I use and, okay, let me use, I would like to change the values in here. Let's make a, okay, I'm going to change the condition to a is greater than b and make a greater than b, and I'm going to say So now moving on to AND logical operator, we might have to do a few changes. So I'm gonna, the first condition that was initially for the statement stay. Let's see. So basically the difference between an OR operator and an AND operator is that in OR operator, if either one of the conditions that have been defined is true, the thing that you've asked the computer to execute is going to execute. But then in an AND operator, all of the conditions, or if you define two, if only both of the conditions are true, it's going to get executed. So I would like to remove all of this and make, let's see, I would like to define another integer. Let's call that one c, because why not? And I'm going to define c as, I don't know, 7. So now I would like to put an if statement and say if a is less than b and if a was if a was less than c, if a is less than c, I'm going to print out this came out to be true. Now if I run this, it's going to work because both of the conditions are true. But then if I had, let's say, if a was less than, let's say if c was less than b, which is false. Oops, let me fix that. If c was less than b, so if nothing happened, I'm gonna print out that did not come out to be true. So now if I run it, you could see that the output by the computer is that did not come out to be true. And the reason that why that happened was while a is less than b was true, but then c less than b was not true because c was 7 and b was 6. Now if I use something like b was less than 6, which is true, b is less than c, for example, this would work. And the reason both of them are getting executed is because I did not use an else conditional. So let me do that real quick. So now you can see that this came out to be true because a was less than b and also b was less than c. So this is how logical operators work. So I think I'm going to leave today's tutorial at that. So in the next tutorial, I think we're going to look at loops, which is also one of the very interesting things in Java. So in the next video, we're going to look at different types of loops and how they work and how you can make them work and things like that. So make sure you stay tuned, and that's it. Thanks for watching.